Okay, we're going to watch a bank reconciliation demo presented by Hector Garcia, CPA. You may want to note that you can reconcile any general ledger account to a third-party statement. So let's watch Hector as he demonstrates the bank reconciliation.
So here in the register, if I click on reconcile, here in the top right, I click on reconcile, and I'm going to click on that. And I'll also show you real quick, there's other ways to get to the reconcile screen. So let me just go back to the home page here. And then if I click on this gearbox up here, I can go under tools and click reconcile. So there's basically two ways to get to the reconcile window. So once I click on reconcile, I choose which bank account I'm going to reconcile. I can reconcile anything on my balance sheet. I can reconcile a loan. I can reconcile even inventory, which obviously I don't recommend you do ever. I'm saying you can reconcile any account in the balance sheet. You should be doing it for all banks and credit cards, of course. So we're going to pick the account that we want to reconcile, and we'll click on reconcile now. And then we're typically going to have a beginning balance, which is going to be here, and that comes from the last reconciled amount. And then we're going to have an ending balance, and let's say, for example, I'm going to reconcile November 30th here, and we'll have an ending balance that we get from the actual bank statement. So we'll put here, let's say the ending balance is that amount, and we hit OK. And then the tools you need to know around here is, as you go through your bank register and you recognize, the deposits that are actually cleared, and you kind of check each one here on the right side, and then you recognize the checks or the expenditures that clear, you're going to see that every time you click on this, the difference is going to change. And at some point in time, once you match all your banks and credit cards, your difference should be 0. And then you're going to click on finish now, and that finishes the reconciliation. If for whatever reason the ending balance you entered it wrong, you can click here where it says edit information from statement, and you can just, whatever, make that change if I happen to put it wrong in there. Now, if my beginning balance doesn't match, that's a whole other story. I may have to undo reconciliations and redo them, or work reconciliation discrepancy report. I'm not 100% sure if we covered that or not. And on the top right, it says hide transactions after statement ending date. That's extremely important because we may not want this screen to be cluttered with, I'm going to uncheck that. Now the screen is cluttered even with December transactions, and we're trying to reconcile November, and December is kind of sitting there and bothering us. So I normally click on the checkbox that says hide after statement date. That way I'm not sort of bothered with any old transactions. And then at the very end, when the difference is 0, I'll click finish now, and everything that's there sort of duplicate. I typically delete them unless it's an actual outstanding check. Okay, so that's really all we're going to cover. There's one really important piece, which is monitoring changes of a reconciled transaction. So actually I'm going to show that because that's sort of an important accountant's tool. So I'm just going to do sort of a full reconciliation here. So let me just put the ending balance. Let's say it's 1301.00, and then hit OK. So now I have a difference of 0. Okay, so I reconciled, everything's good. I'm going to click on finish now. And then when I go reconcile the next month, this should have nothing under changes and nothing under auto adjustment. So when I go reconcile December, for example, my beginning balance is 1301 like it should. Now, what happens if I delete or modify a transaction that's already been cleared or reconciled? So let me show you that. Let me go into the check register here real quick and show you the consequences that it has of messing with a transaction that's already been cleared. So I'm going to click on this little gearbox up here, and then I'm going to click on reconcile status. That way you can actually see on the register the stuff that's been reconciled. That's what the R is for. So let me sort this by date. Okay, and obviously everything up to November is going to have an R in it because that's been reconciled. The C just means it's been temporarily cleared, which is what Bank Downloads does. So it's been tentatively clear, so don't worry about that too much, but that's what the C means. So if I take a reconciled transaction like this one right here, and I do something with it, like delete, right? So if I hit delete in this case, and it actually warned me, hey, don't delete this, it's been reconciled. You say, yeah, sure, whatever. Right? Our clients typically do that. They just ignore windows, right? Or if I take something and not delete it, but just modify it, so I'm just going to change the dollar amount here and put 175 and click save, I'm still going to get the warning saying you shouldn't be touching this. But, again, a lot of people just don't pay attention to these things, and then they'll delete something or edit something. So what's really neat about this is as I make changes to reconcile transactions, which is basically causing chaos, when I go back and try to reconcile my next month in December, you're going to see that now my beginning balance here has changes. You see that? Negative 76.50. So if I click on that negative 76.50, I'll show you, because when I click reconcile now, my beginning balance is not going to be correct. See, my beginning balance is just not correct. And it's because there are differences. So when I see those changes there, if I click on that 76.50, I'm going to get a new screen that actually tells me, look, this transaction was deleted, right? And then that transaction was modified. So in order to fix this issue, I have to recreate this cash purchase that I did. I have to recreate that, that's for sure. And then for the expense that I changed, I have to change that from 175 back to 75. Now the ones that I haven't deleted, I can click on and I can make the change right here and fix it forever, which is great. And that will go away, so then I will no longer have an issue with that one. But anything that I deleted, I just won't be able to sort of revive. So I'm going to have to create the transaction from scratch and re-reconcile it again. This is why I recommend, and it says right here, look, you can open them except for delete it. So I strongly recommend that you don't delete stuff, that you avoid it. Because if you avoid it, you can always go back to it and change the dollar amount. By the way, in QuickBooks, a void transaction is basically a transaction that has a dollar amount that was modified to zero. So for whatever it was, it went to zero. That's basically a void, right? So that's why I strongly recommend you do a void instead of a delete. Now, if you're logged in as an accountant, which I'm not, I'm going to have a little hidden button here to the right side of auto adjustment. So right there, when you see the cursor moving in circles, it would show up a little button that says undo. Now, clients, regular QuickBooks users, cannot undo reconciliations. But accountants can. So if you're logged in as an external accountant and you need to undo some mess the client made, you would basically come up here and click on the little undo button. So that only works if you're logged in as an accountant in QuickBooks Online.